What if I told you that a portfolio earning 8% could actually deliver more wealth than one earning 12%? Sounds impossible, right? But here's what changes everything: measuring structured alpha. I'm Christopher Nelson, and after managing my microfamily office for the last 4.5 years, I've discovered that the investors who build the most wealth aren't the ones chasing the highest return. They're the ones focused on structured alpha. In this video, I will show you why your gross returns are lying to you and the two-part framework that lets you keep 2 to 4% more of your money every year. That's potentially an extra $1 to $3 million over 20 years that stays in your family instead of going to taxes. Here's what most high earners do. And I did this for years after I made my first million. You check your portfolio, you see that you're up 11% for the year, and you feel great. You beat the market, you're winning. Except you're measuring the wrong number, because that headline 11% isn't what you actually keep. And the reality might be far less appealing. Let me show you what I mean. Let's say that you have $1 million in a private credit fund paying 10.5% cash on cash return annually. On paper, you're making $105,000 a year. That sounds incredible, right? But private credit distributions are ordinary income taxed at your highest marginal rate. So if you're in the 37% federal bracket, you just gave $38,850 to the IRS. Your actual return, 6.6%. Now here's where things get interesting and where I made a massive mistake for years. Most financial advisors never show you this number. They show you gross returns because that's what looks impressive. That's what gets them clients. But every dollar that you pay in taxes is a dollar that isn't helping build wealth for your family. So what's the alternative? It's the concept I learned from studying family offices. People managing $100 million plus in wealth. They measure your after-tax alpha or structured alpha. Structured alpha is measuring what you keep, not what you make. It's the difference between top-line thinking and bottom line reality. Most investors are just trying to beat the market. They're focused entirely on gross returns. Wealthy investors are playing two games simultaneously. Game one, income architecture. They strategically choose the type of income that they generate. Game two, tax optimization. They protect that income through structural strategies. And here's why this is powerful. Playing both games can add 2 to 4% in annual equivalent alpha. That's 2 to 4% in additional returns without taking any additional market risks. Let me show you how this works. Game one is income architecture. This is about designing tax-efficient income at the source before optimization even starts. Remember, not all income is taxed equally. You get to choose what type you generate. Here are the most tax-efficient income types. First, we've got qualified dividends, taxed at long-term capital gains rates of 0%, 15%, or 20%, depending on your bracket. Compare that to 37% ordinary income. The only nuance here is that you must hold the stock for more than 60 days. Keep in mind, this is different than non-qualified dividends, like those from REITs or most bond interest. Those are taxed at ordinary income, which can reach the top bracket of 37%. Next, we have return of capital, taxed at 0% now, which reduces your basis and essentially lets you defer taxes indefinitely. Here's a simple example to show how this works. Say you invest in a covered call ETF that provides return on capital distribution treatment. You invest $100 and you receive $5 of a return of capital distribution. You pay 0 tax today, but your basis drops to $95. The nuance here is that once your basis hits 0, any further distributions are taxed as capital gains. Investors love return of capital income because it provides interest-free leverage by letting you reinvest tax-deferred dollars today while ultimately converting what have been a high-rate ordinary income into lower-rate capital gains in the future. Now let's look at K1 distributions with depreciation, We're talking real estate syndications, private equity real estate funds. These can generate paper losses that offset other income. So you get cash distributions, but can show negative taxable income. So it's not uncommon to receive a check for $10,000 while your K-1 tax form shows a net loss of $2,000, $4,000, or even $5,000. The nuance here is that this cannot typically offset active income. The principle here is simple. When you have a choice between two assets with similar yields, risk, and liquidity, it makes sense to choose the more tax-efficient structure. Let's look at an example to drive this home. Let's say that you need a 7% yield on a $100,000 investment. You could use a REIT ETF or a private equity real estate fund. So for this example, let's assume both deliver around 7% cash on cash return. But here's the difference. The private equity fund comes with return of capital treatment and depreciation benefits, which means you get the entire 7% yield since the tax rate will be 0%. But with the REIT, you're looking at only 5.25% yield due to the tax character. This is game one, designing efficiency at the source. Now, game two is optimization. Once income exists, how do you legally keep as much of it in your pocket as possible? This is where most people only have access to three basic strategies. Max out their 401k, which upon exit will be taxed at ordinary income, maybe do some tax loss harvesting, and time their capital gains. But when you structure your wealth properly, like a business, in different entities, you unlock what I call the 7-layer deduction stack. Now, I'm not going to go deep into all 7 layers or the structure of the entities. That is a whole separate topic for a different video. But here's what becomes available. Layer 1, direct business deductions, your tech, your education, professional services, even your phone. Layer 2, medical expense reimbursement plans, which you can reimburse $10,000 to $20,000 per year tax-free. Layer 3, accountable plans, home office, mileage, formalized reimbursements. Layer 4, family strategies, paying your kids or using the Augusta rule for renting your home. Then you can even move up a layer to getting a solo 401k attached to your microfamily office, which saves you up to $72,000 per person per year and $80,000 if you're over 50. If you're generating a lot of capital, you can activate an S-Corp election, which is going to save 15% in self-employment tax. Layer 7 is the medical insurance deduction when you are fully financially independent. These layers stack, they compound, and whatever tax drag remains after game 1, game 2 can offset a lot of it. Let's see what this actually looks like inside of real microfamily office portfolios. Let me walk you through 3 scenarios, different portfolio sizes, same framework applied. Scenario A is a $2 million portfolio. Now, for its income, its portfolio income, this does not include W-2, it has a starting effective tax rate of 25 to 30%. With structured alpha approach, you can drop this to 14%. That's $15,000 to $20,000 saved every single year. Now, when you compound that over 20 years, you're looking at $800,000 to $1 million of additional wealth that stays in your family instead of going to taxes. Scenario B, a $5.5 million portfolio, starting with the same effective tax rate of 25 to 30%. With structured alpha, this drops to 10%. Now you're capturing $45,000 to $70,000 annually. The 20-year impact, that's $1.5 million to $2.4 million. Are you starting to see how powerful this can be? And let's look at scenario C, a $10 million portfolio. Starting rate is still 25 to 30%. With structured alpha, that drops to 8%. Your annual savings, $60,000 to $100,000. That 20-year impact is $2 million to $3.5 million. Here's what's fascinating. Notice the pattern. As your portfolio grows, you shift more capital into tax-efficient layers, reduce your risk, and your effective tax rate actually drops even though you're making more absolute dollars. You're making more money and keeping a higher percentage of it. That's the power of measuring structured alpha. Now, the natural question is, where do I actually begin? And the answer is, depends on your portfolio size. If you're in the $1 million to $3 million range, start with game one, income architecture. Build your asset vault and design tax-efficient income streams at the source. Even without the full optimization stack, you're capturing $10,000 to $20,000 per year. Now, if your portfolio size is between 3 million and 7 million, that's when adding the management company structure often makes mathematical sense. Now you can deploy part of the deduction stack, and your annual capture jumps to $30,000 to $55,000 a year. Now, once you hit $7 million plus, you can activate all 7 layers of the deduction stack. You're looking at $60,000 to $100,000 captured annually. The key is to build in sequence. Don't over-engineer before you're ready, but don't leave money on the table once you hit these thresholds. Now, there will be somebody in the comments saying, I'm overcomplicating things. And to be fair, this is more complicated than just blindly handing all your money to a wealth manager or just stuffing it in index funds. But with simple systems and frameworks, capturing that $1 million to $2 million in savings over 20 years is something that you can do in just 5 to 10 hours per month. Think about it like this. If I told you that you could potentially make an extra $2 million in your career by working an extra hour per week, would you do it? For most of you, that's a resounding yes. And look, here's the reality. If you have $1 million to $30 million in investable assets and you're not measuring structured alpha, you're leaving an enormous amount of money on the table. Not might be, not maybe, definitely. The math doesn't lie. Every dollar you pay unnecessarily in taxes is a dollar that can't compound for your family. Now, if this type of content resonates with you and you're interested in starting your own microfamily office, I would love to have you at my upcoming live workshop. There, you will learn how to architect your portfolio strategy using the Evergreen framework, build the operational structure like a real family office, and run your wealth systematically without it consuming your life. The same type of stuff we talked about today in this video, but in much more detail. You can sign up at wealthops.io/go or by clicking the link below this video. After that, you can check out this video if you want to learn more about the microfamily office concept.